stay in the silence is obvious that it was a moving moment. So thank you for providing that. And what I want to start out by saying is that in my opening remarks today, I didn't say anything about us not having any rules. So it must be obvious that we have no rules, that we can just do belly laughing for our meditation. And that's good, because not having any rules gives us complete freedom to acknowledge others when they call us unruly. So, there you go. We have no rules. So the topic is forgiveness, and you're going to say, oh, God, I've heard about this forever. Why are you talking about this again? And I want to say that the reason is simple, is that it's a critical element in our path to enlightenment. And that's really what we're up to. There are so many paths to enlightenment. There's no one path that's just the right and perfect one. So I will never pound the table and say, you've got to do this or that. There are many, many paths to enlightenment. And one of the most interesting paths was the one that the Buddha took. He went off on a jaunt that took 6 years. And he went through all kinds of ascetic processes. Fasting, starving, meditating for hours on end, days on end. And none of it was seeming to work. And he finally said, you know, I'm done with this. I'm not going to do this anymore. And he just sat under the Bodhi tree and he said, I'm not going anywhere until I'm enlightened. And he sat there and did nothing for as long as it took for him to realize that he was enlightened. And that is what I'm suggesting is up for us. You don't have to do anything. There's no magic formula. There's no exercise that you have to do. You don't have to do this training or that training. You simply have to be open to the possibility that you already are enlightened. And the only thing that stands in the way of that is your thinking to the contrary. And that's really the truth. Your soul knows all there is to know. What's in the way is that mind thing. And we get trained, or domesticated is a better term. We get domesticated out of being who we really are. We get told to be this or be that, and so forth and so on. And we've been given the excuse that righteous indignation is appropriate. And I say, righteous indignation is an oxymoron. They are philosophically inconsistent. They collide with one another. You can't be both righteous and indignant. So what's up, what's going on, is we are reacting to something in the past. Because every time we have a grievance, a grudge, an upset of one sort or another, it is because something either just happened or what just happened reminds us of something that happened 2 years or 10 years or 2 lifetimes ago. And what does that do? When we are reacting, we aren't fully present. We're dwelling in the past. Oh, the other thing that we often do is we worry about the future based on our analysis of what the present seems to look like compared to what the past was. So we're always somewhere else. We're never, ever here fully. Because, physically we're here. I'm standing up here on the platform top. I'm here. But am I? Well, that's a decision that one has to make inside. And it's a constant issue. Am I going to be fully here, or am I scanning my memory cells to see what this looks like, to decide, is this good or is this not good? Instead of just being fully present. So the process of forgiveness is what creates the freedom to not be poisoned by the past. Because it lets go of your attachment to reliving the often bitter past. And every time you activate a memory of some past grievance, you are, in one way, reliving it, having the experience all over again. And what on earth are you doing that for? What in the world is the attraction to misery? What? Why are we doing that? It's a habit. It's a bad habit. And I say bad advisedly because it doesn't lead to peace. It doesn't lead to freedom. It leads to bondage. We are emotionally stuck in the past. And we can't be fully present. So, this forgiveness thing is an either or. You either forgive or you judge. And judgment is not a skillful way to pass through this thing we call life. It doesn't help. Because no matter how careful you are about your body language and your actual language and your facial expression, your judgment is radiating out into the universe. And others get it. They get that they are being judged. And when someone is feeling judged, it closes them off. It doesn't make them approachable. It doesn't make them loving. So there's no conceivable way for you to hide your judgment. It sticks out like a sore thumb. It's an energy field, and it goes out into the room that you're in, into the universe. It goes everywhere. And there's nothing you can do about it except stop judging. Start forgiving. Start taking care of yourself. Love yourself enough so that you can say, I'm going to let this go. Because hanging on to it is making me miserable. And there's no excuse for self-created misery. None. It's just a habit. It's a process. There is no conceivable benefit for dwelling in the past. It takes you out of being who you really are. It takes you away from the possibility that you can choose to create a new you right here, right where you are. And that is what we're up to. If we didn't say it before, and I think we did, this is the Interfaith Center for Spiritual Growth. What we're up to is all of us growing in our awareness that we are expressions of divinity and that the divine doesn't judge. The divine doesn't have needs. One of the most extraordinary statements that one can make about divinity is that divinity doesn't even care whether or not you believe in divinity. God doesn't care whether you believe in God, because God is much bigger, much more than the anthropomorphic being that we have attributed to the notion of God. God is wonderfully life itself. It is unconditional love. Unconditioned doesn't mean I love you if you believe in me. Unconditional means I love you. And God has no needs. God doesn't need us to be forgiving. All of the injunctions to the contrary notwithstanding, God doesn't need us to be forgiven. Being forgiving is what we do for ourselves. It unlocks the door of the prison called the past. We get to walk out scot-free because we are free. We are totally free to believe whatever we want. God has no needs in this regard. If you wish to be all that you can be, to be the grandest version of yourself the world has ever seen, forgiveness is a process by which you can get there. Forgiveness is the way out of the jail called the past. Thoughts are creative. What you think matters. It matters a great deal. So really work on thinking about what you're thinking about. Pay attention to the thoughts that are finding a home in your mind. And if you find that some of these thoughts are judgmental, are disabling, are taking you out of being fully present, just let them go. Just let them go, because they don't serve you. They serve nothing but continued misery. And if you do this long enough, dwell in the past, and have tons of grievances, you can literally make yourself physically ill. You can even develop life-threatening illnesses directly related to unforgiveness, directly related to the corollary of unforgiveness, which is judgment. And whenever you judge any person, anything, you simply are taking yourself out of the possibility of being fully present, being here, instead of in the past, or worried about the future. And so many of us simply are not. Sometimes we don't even have the capacity to be here now. We're always somewhere else, worried about the past. Sometimes we even spend a lot of energy worrying about, thinking about, well, what am I going to say next when you're in a conversation? Give no thought about that. Make no plans, because plans are simply worries about the future. Deal with what shows up in the moment when it's time to deal with it. It simply doesn't serve the grandest purpose, which is our enlightenment, our ability to be who we really are. And who we really are is a spark of divinity. And I say to you over and over and over again, because it's so important, that divinity has no needs. God doesn't mind whatever it is that we think or do or say. In other words, nothing matters. Nothing. We're free. And we exist in a world of duality where all kinds of things are going on. Sometimes we're called to be helpful and supportive of our brothers and sisters. And that's appropriate. Do what's in front of you to do, but don't worry about anything. Don't judge anything. It's good or it's bad only because one says that it is one or the other. And if something is going on that isn't serving the greater good, work to change it. Work to change, but don't judge. Work to change, but don't create the energy of negativity. Because I guarantee, when that energy of judgment goes out into the universe, it is felt and it is responded to. And when one is judged, the sort of natural inclination is to respond in kind. And some really advanced person once said, an eye for an eye, pretty soon the whole world is blind. And that's true. If we go around judging, we're going to be judged. And whenever judgment occurs, there's always a level of deficiency. No one is ever judged perfect. But I suggest that we are perfect. Just where we are, just what we're doing. Because we are being the experience of divinity in one form or another. So, what are we attempting to accomplish? We're attempting to be all that we can be. We're attempting to create, in this moment, the best us that the world has seen yet. And that's the perfection of life. Life is a process of renewing itself, always. Life is eternal. These bag of bones that we wear are not. They sometimes wear out. Sometimes they disappear. But that doesn't mean anything about life. Life is eternal. It never ceases. It simply doesn't. And we just have the opportunity to experience ourselves in the way that God experiences us. Without judgment, without needs, without rules. There are no 10 commandments. None of the commandments exist. And if there was one about forgiveness, it doesn't exist either. We suggest that forgiveness is a way to live in peace. Because when you are free of the past, when you are free of judgment, you have in front of you the possibility of being happy, joyous, and free, regardless of what's going on in front of you, next to you. What seems like to you doesn't matter. Nothing matters. The only thing that matters is your response to what seems to be going on. And when you can be totally without judgment, when you can be the presence of infinite, unconditional love every moment of every day, guess what? You have discovered that you are enlightened. And it's a discovery that you make. There's nothing that you need to do to become that. You simply need to awaken to who you really are. And forgiveness is the number one topic. To let go of all the stuff that you've carried with you forever. For all these years, for all these lifetimes even. We have always been judgmental. And what we really are, what we really, really are, is guiltless, sinless, and totally defenseless. We don't need defense. Simply not necessary. So, the invitation is to forgive everyone for everything, including yourself, for all the judgments that you have bought into. And as Diane suggested this morning, when she said, give yourself a big hug, because the hardest person in the world to forgive is you. So practice forgiveness. Let go of everything. And remember that nothing matters. What matters is whether you can be happy, joyous, and free in the middle of whatever shows up in life. So it's really important that we get forgiveness as opposed to judgment. It's our ticket to freedom. And it doesn't cost a lot, but it seems to. It seems to be very difficult. Oh, well, you can't mean I have to forgive him for that. You don't have to do anything. But if you choose to be free, the only avenue to freedom is forgiveness. Judgment always results in prison time. So now it's open mic time. Randall.